I carried a warm Thanksgiving meal to my son's house, hoping to surprise my family. But my son told me, "We celebrated yesterday." Then his wife whispered, "Everything runs smoother when you're not around." Heartbroken, I left and gave my homemade meal to a hungry child outside a shelter who asked, "Will you come back?" 3 hours later, my phone rang as my family begged me to return after discovering the truth behind my decision. Before we go further, drop a comment and tell me where you are watching from. Your city, your country. Let me know you are here. Silent Dad, revenge exists because stories like this deserve to be heard. Some elements are fictional, crafted for reflection and depth. Any resemblance to actual names or places is coincidental, but the message is yours to keep. The smell hit me before my alarm did. Brown sugar and hickory smoke curling through the apartment. At 5:45 in the morning, the way it had every Thanksgiving for the past 11 years. I had started the dry rub the night before paprika garlic powder. A pinch of cayenne, the way my father taught me the way I had taught Brandon when he was barely tall enough to reach the kitchen counter. The ribs had been in the oven since 4 a.m., low and slow the way good things are supposed to be done. I stood at the kitchen window in my undershirt and watched the sky over the Pennsylvania hills go from black to the particular shade of gray that November specializes in out here. The yard below was stiff with frost. My neighbor Harold's pickup sat in the driveway next door with a thin skin of ice across the windshield, and somewhere 2 streets over somebody's dog was barking at the cold like it was a personal insult. This was the part of the day I had always loved best. Before the noise started, before the questions and the cousins and the too loud football game on Brandon's 70-inch television, just me and the smell of the ribs and the quiet. I reached into the pocket of my flannel shirt and felt the envelope. It was a standard business envelope, white, a little thicker than usual because of the documents folded inside. 8 years of patience had been pressed into that paper. 8 years of eating lunch from a thermos in the shop instead of going out. 8 years of skipping the fishing trip to Montana I had told myself I would take every spring. 8 years of watching the number in my savings account grow the way a tree grows slowly without drama, one ring at a time. The property was a small commercial building on Callaway Road. Not grand, not flashy, but solid. $312,000 paid outright, no mortgage, no partners. I had planned to hand Brandon the keys today along with the envelope. His own building, his own business. No more working for someone else's name on the door. I wrapped the ribs, carefully set the container on the passenger seat, and called him at 8:30. The phone rang 4 times before he picked up. That alone should have told me something. Brandon always answered on the second ring when he needed something. "Dad." His voice had a texture I did not recognize immediately. Flat slightly clipped the voice of a man trying to deliver information without inviting follow-up questions. "We already did Thanksgiving last night." My hand tightened around the phone. "What do you mean last night?" "Chloe had some people over. Partners from the firm, a couple of her contacts. It just made more sense to do it then." He paused. "The timing worked out better for everyone." "Brandon." I kept my voice steady, though my chest had started doing something uncomfortable. "You moved Thanksgiving without telling me." "It wasn't a big production, Dad. It was just dinner. It was the holiday." "Look, I have to—" Then the phone shifted. A different sound on the line. A breath deliberate and unhurried. And then Chloe's voice came through smooth as a blade that has been sharpened so many times it no longer looks dangerous. "Everything runs smoother when you're not around Arthur." Not Dad. Not even a courtesy title. Just Arthur, the way you might say the name of an appliance repairman you were tired of dealing with. My throat locked up so completely that for a moment I genuinely could not pull air through it. I pressed 2 fingers against the counter and breathed through my nose. "Put Brandon back on," I said. But the line had already gone quiet, in the way lines go quiet when someone on the other end has decided the conversation is over. I stood in my kitchen for a long time after that. The ribs were on the passenger seat. The envelope was in my shirt pocket. The frost outside had not moved. Everything in the apartment was exactly where it had been 20 minutes ago, and yet the room felt like a place I had walked into by accident, a room that belonged to somebody else's morning. I had spent 30 years putting things together: cabinets, joinery, structural frames, the load-bearing bones of buildings that would still be standing when I was gone. I knew what it felt like when something that should hold simply did not. My chest was burning the way it burns when you have been holding your breath without realizing it. I picked up my keys. I did not pour the coffee I had made. I did not turn off the kitchen light. I just picked up my keys and walked out the door because sitting still in that apartment felt like something I was not physically capable of doing. The ribs were still warm on the passenger seat when I started the engine. I did not know yet where I was going, but my hands knew the road, and they pointed the truck east toward the part of town where the houses got bigger and the driveways got longer, and a man like me learned a long time ago to park on the street instead of pulling in. I don't know what I expected to find when I turned onto Brandon Street. Maybe some part of me needed to see it with my own eyes before I could accept that it was real, that a Thanksgiving had happened inside that house, full and warm and complete, and nobody had thought to call me until I called first. The gate at the end of the driveway was open. Cars lined both sides of the street, dark sedans and a silver SUV. I didn't recognize the kind of vehicles that belong to people who refer to their accountants by first name. Music drifted from somewhere inside, low enough to be tasteful, loud enough to carry. Through the front windows I could see the amber glow of the dining room chandelier Brandon had picked out 2 years ago, the one that cost more than my first truck. I drove past the front entrance and pulled around to the side. I had learned a long time ago not to ring the front doorbell of that house when Chloe had guests over. The last time I had done it, she had answered in a dress I could tell was expensive, and looked at me the way people look at a package left in the rain. I knocked at the back door. Chloe appeared within 30 seconds, which told me she had been watching. She stepped outside and pulled the door almost shut behind her. She was wearing a cream-colored blouse, and the particular expression she reserved for situations she wanted to resolve quickly and quietly. She looked at the container in my hands. Her lip barely moved, but her eyes said everything they needed to say. "You can't come in," she said. "We have guests." "I know you have guests. I just want 5 minutes with Brandon." "This isn't a good time, Arthur." "Chloe." My voice came out rougher than I intended. "It's Thanksgiving." "The smell of grease doesn't belong in there tonight," she said. "Don't make a scene, Arthur. It would embarrass everyone." The kitchen window was lit up behind her. The woman who cleaned the house twice a week was standing at the sink, her hands motionless in the dishwater, watching. I looked at Chloe's face and understood that she had made her calculation before she opened the door. She had decided what was worth protecting her evening: her guests, her carefully constructed version of a life, and I was not on that list. My legs carried me back to the truck. I do not remember deciding to walk away. I just found myself behind the wheel with the engine running and the street getting smaller in the rearview mirror. I drove without purpose for a while, taking turns without choosing them, letting the familiar roads of this town absorb the shaking in my hands. Somewhere near the underpass on Clement Avenue, I passed the old brick building I had helped supply with donated woodworking equipment 4 years ago, the County Social Services Annex with the transitional shelter on the second floor. I pulled into the parking lot. I did not have a reason. I just stopped. The November air hit me like cold water when I stepped out. The shelter's front entrance was locked after 6, but the side door under the overhang was propped open with a cinder block and a plastic sign taped to the glass. "Read holiday meal all welcome." I went in because I was carrying a phone number in my chest where a heartbeat used to be, and I had nowhere else to take it. The common room was warm and smelled of industrial coffee and something baked. Paper turkeys made by children covered the bulletin board near the entrance. A woman at the folding table asked if I needed a form. I told her I was just dropping in. That was when I saw him. He was sitting on the concrete step just outside the side exit, a boy maybe 9 or 10, slight with dark hair that needed cutting, and a jacket 2 sizes too large, hanging off his narrow shoulders. He was holding a small plastic container with both hands, cradling it against his stomach, like it was something that might be taken from him. Inside the container, 4 crackers and what might have once been half a granola bar. I pushed open the door and sat down on the step beside him. The cold came up through the concrete. The boy looked at me sideways without moving his head, the way children look at strangers when they're deciding whether to be afraid. I set the rib container down in front of him. The lid had cracked in the fall, but the food inside was untouched. He stared at it. His jaw worked once. Then he looked up at me, and his eyes were so startlingly careful for a child's eyes that my throat ached. "Mister," he said, "is this food really for me?" "It is," I said. He was quiet for a moment. The wind moved through the overhang and rattled the cinder block against the door. "I can pay you back some day," he said. "I promise." I pressed my hands flat against my knees to keep them from shaking. I had driven across this town with a container of ribs and an envelope full of everything I had saved for 30 years. And I had held them out to people who threw one away and were waiting to collect the other. And now I was sitting on a cold concrete step, next to a boy who had offered to repay me for a meal he hadn't even eaten yet. "What's your name?" I asked. "Leo," he said. "I'm Arthur." I nodded at the container. "Go ahead. It's getting cold." He opened the lid carefully like he was unwrapping something that deserved respect. The smell of the ribs drifted up between us in the cold air. I sat with him until the light changed and the parking lot turned dark and the stars came out over the Pennsylvania hills. I did not talk much, neither did he. But when I finally stood to go, Leo looked up at me with barbecue sauce at the corner of his mouth and said, "Will you come back?" My chest pulled tight in a way that had nothing to do with anger. "Yeah," I said. "I will." I walked back to the truck. The envelope was still in my shirt pocket. I put my hand over it and felt the edges of the paper through the fabric. 8 years of saving for the wrong table. And the right one had been 11 minutes from my apartment the whole time. I did not go home that night. I drove straight to the shop instead, the old converted garage on Birchwood that I had been renting for 14 years, where the smell of sawdust and linseed oil had soaked so deep into the walls that no amount of ventilation would ever fully clear it out. I unlocked the side door, flipped on the overhead light, and sat down on the stool at my workbench, with the envelope on the table in front of me. The clock on the wall read 9:47. I stared at that envelope for a long time. White, ordinary, the kind you could buy in a box of 100 at any drugstore in Pennsylvania. But what was folded inside it had taken 8 years of my life to build 8 years of brown bag lunches and skipped vacations, and a savings account I had not touched, even when the furnace blew out 2 winters ago, and I had eaten soup for 3 weeks, rather than dip into it. $312,000. Paid outright. No bank, no partner. Just me and 30 years of knowing how load-bearing structures work applied to the one thing in my life that was supposed to outlast me. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. My hands were not shaking anymore. That surprised me. I had expected rage or grief or the particular sick feeling that comes when something you loved turns out to be hollow. What I felt instead was a cold, clear steadiness, the same steadiness I felt when a structural beam came back wrong from the mill, and I had to tell a client we were starting over. I typed the email to my attorney, Gerald Marsh, in less than 3 minutes. "Gerald, effective immediately, please halt all steps related to the Callaway Road property transfer. No deed delivery, no closing preparation, no further correspondence with the intended recipients. I will contact you after the holiday weekend with further instructions. This is not a draft. This is my instruction." I read it twice, then I sent it. Then I called his office line and left the same message on voicemail, so there could be no ambiguity about the timing. The legal reality in Pennsylvania was straightforward until a deed is signed, notarized, and physically delivered to the recipient. A property transfer does not exist. I had not crossed that line. The building on Callaway Road was still entirely mine, and one email had confirmed it would stay that way. I set the phone face down on the workbench and picked up a hand plane that had been sitting half-finished for 3 weeks. I ran the blade across a piece of scrap oak, not because anything needed planing, but because my hands needed something honest to do. The weekend passed in a specific kind of quiet. Friday, I did not drive to Brandon's house to look at the boiler, the way I had promised before Thanksgiving. I did not call to explain why. I made coffee, went to the shop, and worked until my back told me to stop. Saturday morning, my phone buzzed. Dad? Brandon's voice carried the particular tension of a man who has realized something is wrong, but has not yet decided how to address it. The boiler's making that sound again. The one you said was the pressure valve. My jaw tightened. I breathed through it. Call a plumber, Brandon, I said. You can afford one. A beat of silence, not the comfortable kind. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. Let the plumber know the valve is on the east side of the unit. It's easier to reach from the left. I hung up before he could redirect the conversation. Sunday came with low clouds and the smell of snow that never arrived. Brandon called again at 2:30. This time the pleasantries were gone entirely. Dad, I haven't heard from Gerald's office. Is the Callaway transfer still happening before year-end? My chest tightened until I could feel my own ribs. 8 years. He had not asked how I was. He had not mentioned Thanksgiving. He had called to check on his inheritance. No, I said. It's not happening. What do you mean it's not? It means no Brandon? My voice came out flat and final, the way a door sounds when it closes on a room you are not going back into. Get some rest. We'll talk when there's something worth saying. I ended the call and set the phone down on the workbench beside the oak scrap. The overhead light hummed. Outside, a car moved slowly down Birchwood, and its headlights swept across the shop window. I knew Brandon would not let it rest. I knew the next move would not come from him. Dorothy never called before 2 p.m. She was a woman of deep habits. Coffee at 7 errands before noon, a nap she would deny taking and phone calls strictly after lunch. When, as she put it, the day had settled enough to think clearly. So when her name lit up my screen at 1:26 on Monday, I wiped the sawdust from my hands onto my work apron and answered before the second ring. Art. Her voice had a weight to it that I recognized immediately, the weight of someone who has been rehearsing how to start a sentence and has still not found the right word. I need to tell you something, and I need you to let me get through the whole thing before you say anything. My stomach dropped 3 inches. Go ahead, Dorothy. She had gone to Brandon's house Friday afternoon to return a casserole dish she had borrowed before Thanksgiving. Nothing unusual. She had a key to the side entry they always left unlocked for family. Brandon's car was in the garage. The housekeeper, a woman named Helen, had let her in and asked her to wait in the kitchen while she checked if Brandon was available. Dorothy had stood at the kitchen island, and there on the granite countertop between a fruit bowl and a stack of unopened mail, she had seen a document. I thought it was a grocery list at first, she said, and I could hear her pressing her fingers together the way she did when she was managing her composure. It was face up, typed, clean margins. Arthur had had her name in the header. My hand tightened around the phone until my knuckles ached. What did it say? Dorothy exhaled slowly. Point 1. Initiate full property transfer. All real estate and commercial holdings before the primary holder's 70th birthday. Point 2. Update all access codes and emergency contacts upon transfer completion. She stopped. Point 3, I said. Discontinue all informal financial support obligations once asset transfer is confirmed. Her voice cracked on the last word, just slightly, just enough for me to hear the anger underneath. It was formatted like a business memo. Bullet points, a timeline in the margin. She wrote it like she was planning a product launch. The shop felt very small suddenly. The overhead bulb seemed too bright, throwing hard shadows across the half-built cabinet against the far wall. I sat down on the stool so slowly it felt like my legs had simply stopped working. Did she sign it? I asked. She didn't need to. Her full name was in the header. Chloe Renee Vance Miller. Dorothy's breath caught. I stood there and read the whole thing twice because I kept telling myself I was misreading it. I wasn't misreading it. A burning started behind my eyes, not tears, not yet just the dry pressure of something that wanted to become tears but had not found permission. I pressed 2 fingers against the bridge of my nose and breathed. "How long ago did you see this?" I asked. "Friday. I've been sick about it all weekend." Her voice broke fully, then a short, hard sound she tried to cover. "I kept asking myself if I should tell you. I kept thinking, what if I'm wrong? What if there's some explanation? But Art, there is no explanation for that. None." "You're not wrong," I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "You did the right thing calling me. Are you okay?" I looked down at my hands. 68 years of work had left their signature on them, the thick, ridged skin across the knuckles, the stain of walnut oil that never fully washed out from the creases, the small scar on my left thumb from a chisel that slipped in 1987. These hands had built things people still lived and worked inside. They had framed walls and fitted joinery and carried Eleanor home from the hospital the day Brandon was born. And for the last several years, without my fully understanding it, they had also been building Chloe's exit strategy. "I'm not okay," I told Dorothy because she had earned honesty, "but I will be." "What are you going to do?" "Right now, I'm going to finish the cabinet I started 3 weeks ago." I stood up and pulled my apron straight. "After that, I'm going to think." "Art, I'm not going to do anything rash, Dot, I promise." She made a sound that was half relief and half skepticism, the sound of a woman who has known me for 68 years and understands the difference between those two things. After we hung up, I stood at the workbench for a long time. I did not touch the cabinet. I walked instead to the old metal filing cabinet in the corner of the shop, the gray one with the dented bottom drawer that I had owned since the Dayton plant closed. I pulled open the top drawer and found what I was looking for. Immediately, the engineering notebook, dark blue. Cover my initials pressed into the lower right corner, with a letter stamp I had bought in 1983. I carried it back to the workbench and set it under the light. I had not opened it in over 2 years. The spine cracked slightly when I lifted the cover. Inside page after page of load calculations, beam, specs, material, tolerances, 30 years of technical knowledge, written in the particular shorthand I had developed over decades, the kind that would be meaningless to anyone who had not been trained to read it. I stood there with my hand flat on the open page and felt something shift in the back of my mind, quiet, insistent, like the sound a floorboard makes before it tells you exactly where the problem is. I did not know yet what I was looking for, but I had learned a long time ago to trust that feeling. It had never once been wrong. Before I tell you what Roy said when he called that Tuesday evening, something that made my hands go cold the moment I heard it, I want to know if you're still with me. Drop the number 5 in the comments right now. That's all. Just 5. So I know you're here because what's coming next is something I never saw coming, and I don't want you to miss a single word of it. And just so you know, parts of what you're about to hear are drawn from real experience shaped into a story. If that's not your kind of content, no hard feelings. This is a good moment to step away. But if you're staying, I promise you it's worth it. Roy Henderson had been my floor supervisor at the Dayton mechanical plant for 6 years before the place shut down, and we both found ourselves with more time than we knew what to do with. He called on Tuesday evening while I was still at the bench, the engineering notebook open in front of me under the shop light. "Art!" His voice had the easy warmth of a man who has known you long enough to skip the preamble. "I was at your boys' thing last night, the promotion party." I set down the pencil I had been turning in my fingers. "I didn't know you two were in touch." "We're not really. One of my old Dayton contacts does work with his firm now. I got a +1 on the invitation." Roy paused, and something in that pause made my spine go straight. "Art, I need to ask you something directly, and I need you to hear me out before you respond." "Go ahead, Roy." "The framed drawings in Brandon's office." His voice dropped half a register. "The load-bearing series. The Dayton calculations from '09. Those came from your notebook, didn't they?" The air went out of the shop. "Roy..." "Because I recognized them the second I walked in," he said, and now I could hear the controlled anger underneath the careful tone. "I spent 6 years watching you work those numbers. You write your load figures in that particular way, the decimal always raised the unit abbreviation circled. Nobody else on that floor did it that way. I stood in front of those frames for 10 minutes, telling myself I was imagining it, and I wasn't imagining it, Art. My free hand found the open page of the notebook, the Dayton series, pages 41 through 63. I had worked those calculations over 4 months in the winter of 2009, cross-referencing material, tolerances against temperature variance data, building a set of load predictions that had ended up being used on 3 separate commercial projects. The best technical work I had ever done. I turned to page 43 and held it under the light. There, in the upper right corner of the page, a faint rectangular shadow, barely visible against the screen. Paper. The edge artifact of a phone camera. Flash the kind of ghost a photograph leaves on paper when the light catches it at the wrong angle. I had not noticed it before because I had not been looking for it. My stomach turned over so hard I had to press my other hand flat against the bench to keep my balance. Art, are you still with me? I'm here. My voice came out scraped raw. Roy, when you saw those frames, were they labeled? Did they have his name on them? Mounted and matted, no attribution at all, which means every partner and client who walked into that office saw your life's work and assumed it belonged to your son. Roy exhaled sharply. I'm sorry, Art. I debated calling all day, but I kept thinking if it was my work up on that wall, I'd want someone to tell me. The burning behind my eyes from yesterday was back fiercer now, pushing against the back of my skull like pressure building in a sealed pipe. I blinked hard against it. You did right? I said. I mean that. What are you going to do? I looked down at page 43, at the ghost of a camera flash pressed into the corner of 30 years of honest work. I'm going to finish what I started, I said. That's what I always do. After Roy hung up, I turned through the notebook page by page. The faint shadow appeared on 11 pages in total, always the upper corner, always the same rectangular shape. Brandon had photographed them systematically, not once in a hurry, but methodically the way you photograph a document you intend to use. I closed the notebook and held it against my chest with both arms, the way you hold something you're afraid of putting down. 30 years of calculation and precision and honest labor, and my son had walked into this shop probably while I was in the next room, probably while I was making us both coffee, and had pointed a phone at the work of my life and taken what he needed without asking. My throat ached so badly I could barely swallow. I was not going to cry. I was 68 years old, and I had buried my wife and survived the Dayton closure and rebuilt my life from a single rented garage. And I was not going to cry over this in the shop at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night. But my hands were shaking when I put the notebook back in the filing cabinet, and they did not stop shaking for a long time after. I had one reason to go to Brandon's house on Thursday afternoon, and it was not to confront anyone. The companion binder to my engineering notebook, a second volume containing material, sourcing records, and vendor contacts from the Dayton years, had been sitting somewhere in Brandon's study for 2 years. I had lent it to him when he mentioned a renovation project he was pricing out. He had never returned it, and I had never pushed, because in those days pushing felt like ingratitude. I was done not pushing. I called ahead. Brandon did not answer, which meant he was either in a meeting or avoiding me at this point. The distinction barely mattered. Helen answered the house line on the third ring. Mr. Miller. Her voice carried the careful warmth of a woman who has worked in other people's homes long enough to know exactly what she is and is not allowed to say. Mr. Brandon and Mrs. Chloe are both out until 6. Did you want to leave a message? I just need to pick up a binder from the study, Helen. I'll be in and out in 10 minutes. A small pause. Of course. I'll leave the side door open for you. The house smelled like a furniture showroom. When I stepped inside, that particular blend of leather conditioning, product, and scented candle that Chloe favored. New sectional in the living room, charcoal gray, the kind that costs more per cushion than most people spend on a month's groceries. A pair of abstract paintings on the wall I had never seen before, all sharp angles and expensive frames. I moved toward the study. The binder was exactly where I expected it, on the second shelf spine out, still in the same condition I had lent it. I tucked it under my arm and turned to leave. That was when I looked toward the reading alcove. The corner where Eleanor's oak writing desk had stood for 31 years was empty, not rearranged, not moved to another wall. Empty, just bare floor and a faint rectangle in the carpet, where the desk legs had compressed the pile over decades. My legs stopped working properly. I reached out and put one hand on the doorframe. Helen appeared in the hallway. She took one look at my face, and her own went carefully neutral in the way faces go when someone is bracing to deliver something they wish they did not have to say. "Helen," my voice came out barely above a scrape. "The oak desk, Eleanor's desk." She looked at the floor, her hands folded in front of her apron. "Mrs. Chloe had it removed about 3 months ago, Mr. Miller. Removed where Helen's jaw worked once. She sold it to the salvage yard on Route 9. She looked up at me then, and her eyes were wet at the corners. $50. She said it smelled like a workshop and didn't match the new furniture. I'm so sorry, Mr. Miller. I wanted to call you. I didn't think it was my place." $50. The number landed in my chest like something thrown hard from a short distance. Eleanor had sat at that desk every morning for 23 years, grading the papers she brought home from the elementary school, where she taught 3rd grade writing birthday cards, in her careful looping hand, paying bills, reading. The last morning she was well enough to sit anywhere outside the bedroom she had sat at that desk with a cup of tea, and worked a crossword puzzle she never finished. I had found it still folded open on the blotter the afternoon she was admitted to the hospital. I had kept that desk through everything, through the grief and the selling of the house and the move to the apartment, and every year since. It was not valuable by any measure a furniture dealer would recognize. It was just oak and mortise and tenon joinery, and 31 years of a woman's daily life pressed into the grain of the wood. And Chloe had traded it for $50 to make room for a charcoal sectional. "Thank you for telling me, Helen." The words came out steady, which shocked me because nothing inside me was steady. "You did the right thing." Helen pressed her lips together, hard fighting something. She didn't ask me to move it out. She had the salvage men in while I was running errands. I came back, and it was just gone. Her voice broke on the last word. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "It's not your fault." I touched her shoulder briefly. "None of this is your fault." I walked out the side door with the binder under my arm and drove straight to the shop. I did not trust myself to drive anywhere else. Inside, I sat down in the chair I had owned since 1987, put both palms flat on the workbench surface, and let the grief come the way I had not let it come since the funeral. It moved through my chest like something being torn loose from its anchoring raw, ugly, the kind of crying that has no dignity to it at all. I pressed the heels of my hands against my eyes and shook with it until there was nothing left to shake with. Eleanor would have hated that desk ending up in a salvage yard. She would have given it to a teacher or a student or anyone who would use it properly. When the crying finally stopped, I lifted my head and looked at her photograph on the wall, small black and white taken the summer before Brandon started kindergarten, her laughing at something outside the frame. I thought about Leo, about a 10-year-old boy cradling a plastic box of crackers, like it was the most precious thing he owned. Something was pulling at the edge of my understanding, something about that boy that I had not yet been given the words to name. Brandon showed up at my door at 7 Saturday morning, unshaved, wearing yesterday's coat. I had been up since 5:30. Coffee was already on its second pot, and I was halfway through a bowl of oatmeal when the knock came 3 sharp raps, too urgent for a neighbor, too early for anyone with good news. I opened the door and took one look at my son's face and felt my stomach tighten into a fist. His eyes were red-rimmed, his jaw carried 2 days of stubble. He had the hollowed-out look of a man who had been awake all night, though something about the precision of it, the exact right amount of dishevelment, made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. "Dad!" His voice cracked on the word. "I'm in trouble. Real trouble." I stepped back and let him in. He sat at my kitchen table and wrapped both hands around the coffee mug I set in front of him. Then he told me the story. He had been holding a cash payment for a vendor $14,000, drawn from his personal account to cover a contract dispute that needed to be settled outside normal billing channels. He had left it locked in his car overnight. Someone had broken the driver's window and taken everything. The vendor was threatening to pull out of a deal that would cost Brandon his largest account of the year. He needed me to put the house up as collateral for an emergency bridge loan. He needed it by Monday. He delivered the whole thing without a single pause, the way people deliver things they have rehearsed. I poured myself a second cup of coffee and sat down across from him. "Brandon," I said, "what's in the trunk of Chloe's car?" His hands tightened around the mug. "What? I came past your place this morning. I take Ridgeline to the supply yard on Saturdays. You know that you've ridden with me. I pulled up to the intersection at 6:40 and I saw Chloe in the driveway." I kept my voice level and quiet the way I kept it level and quiet when I was explaining to a client why their building had a structural problem. She was moving something from the trunk of her car into the garage. Something in a bag, moving fast. Brandon's jaw worked. A muscle jumped at the corner of his eye. "And your driver's window," I continued. "I could see it from the street." "The safety glass broke inward, Brandon. When someone breaks a car window from outside, the glass falls into the car. When it breaks from inside," I set my coffee mug down. "I built load-bearing structures for 30 years. I know which direction force travels." The color drained from his face so completely that for a moment he looked like a stranger sitting at my table. "Dad, don't." My voice came out harder than I intended, hard enough that Brandon flinched. "Do not sit at your mother's table and lie to my face. I am 68 years old, and I have done nothing but love you and work for you, and give you everything I had, and you will not sit here and lie to me." Brandon's mouth opened, closed. He pushed the coffee mug away from him with the back of his hand, and the liquid sloshed over the rim onto the table. "Go home," I said. "Call me when you want to have a real conversation, not before." He stood up. For one moment he looked exactly like he had at age 7, when I caught him blaming a broken window on the neighbor's dog. That particular mixture of shame and calculation, trying to decide if there was still an angle to work. There was not. He left without another word. I listened to his car pull out of the driveway, then I sat back down at the table and pressed both hands flat against the wood, and breathed until the shaking in my chest settled. That afternoon I drove to the park near Brandon's neighborhood to give Julian the colored pencils I had been carrying in my truck for 3 weeks. He was at the climbing structure with 2 other kids, and when he saw me, he ran over with the easy confidence of a child who has not yet learned to be suspicious of adults. He grabbed the pencil box, flipped it open, counted the colors with his index finger. Then he looked up. "Grandpa, Mom says you're only useful when something's broken." He said it with the same tone he might use to report the weather flat informational, something he had heard so many times it no longer registered as anything remarkable. "Are you broken today?" My heart cracked straight down the middle. "Not today," I said, and my voice only wavered slightly. "Then why did you come?" I sat down on the bench beside the climbing structure and watched him run back to his friends, already opening the pencils, already forgetting I was there. 6 years old. His mother had handed him that sentence the way you hand a child a phrase for a school presentation, something to be repeated without understanding something that served her purpose, whether he understood it or not. I sat on that bench for a long time after Julian disappeared around the far side of the structure. There was something waiting for me at the shelter. I could feel it the way I used to feel a fault line in a beam before I could see it. A wrongness in the grain, a density that did not match the surrounding material. Something about Leo that I had not yet been allowed to know. I had been back to the shelter 4 times since Thanksgiving. Each visit, I told myself the same thing, dropping off tools, checking on the donated equipment, nothing more. Each time I ended up staying 2 hours longer than I planned, sitting near the common room workbench, watching Leo coax something useful out of scrap wood, with tools that were frankly too dull for the job. Monday afternoon, I brought him a proper set of bench chisels. 6-piece chrome vanadium steel, the kind that hold an edge long enough to teach you something. Leo was bent over a piece of pine when I came in, his tongue pressed against his upper lip, the way it always was when he was concentrating. He looked up, and his whole face broke into a grin that hit me somewhere behind the sternum. "You came back," he said. "Told you I would." I set the chisel roll on the table beside him. "Open it." He unrolled it carefully, reverently, the way he handled anything he considered valuable. He lifted the largest chisel and turned it in the light, examining the bevel, with the seriousness of a craftsman 30 years older than he was. "These are really good," he said almost to himself. Then he looked up. "Are these mine to keep?" "They're yours," I said. My throat felt thick. "You take care of a good tool, it'll outlast you." That was when Carol appeared in the doorway. Carol Simmons had been a caseworker at this shelter for 11 years. She was a direct woman who said exactly what she meant and expected the same in return, which I had come to appreciate considerably. She caught my eye and tilted her head toward the small meeting room off the corridor. "Mr. Miller, do you have a few minutes?" Something in her tone made my pulse step up a gear. I told Leo I would be right back. He was already fitting the chisel against the pine, already gone into that focused place children go when they have something real to work with. Carol closed the door of the meeting room behind us and sat across the small table from me. She folded her hands on top of a manila folder. "Leo has given his consent for you to review his background file," she said. "As you've expressed interest in formal guardianship, this is the next step in our process. I want you to understand that some of what's in here may be difficult." "All right," I said, though my hands had already started doing something uncomfortable against my knees. She slid the folder across to me. I opened it. The first page was a standard intake form: date of admission, physical description, age estimate at time of abandonment. I read through the top half with the careful steadiness of a man who has taught himself to read bad news without reacting until he understands all of it. Then I reached the birth record section: Mother Chloe Renee Vance. The letters did not rearrange themselves no matter how long I stared at them. Date of abandonment 10 years and 2 months prior. Location county intake facility, 40 minutes southeast of Pittsburgh. Reason recorded by intake worker. Mother states she is unable to provide care. No father listed. No family contacts provided. The address Chloe had given at intake was the apartment complex in Bridgeville, a suburb southwest of Pittsburgh. I knew that address. Brandon had mentioned it once early in their relationship as the place Chloe had lived before she moved to the city. My chest seized so hard I pressed one fist against my sternum to keep breathing. Carol's voice came through carefully. "Mr. Miller, are you all right? Give me a moment." The words scraped out of my throat like something being pulled over gravel. I looked through the interior window at the common room. Leo was still at the workbench, holding the chisel at exactly the angle I had shown him last week, working the pine with patient, deliberate strokes. His face was open and absorbed, and entirely unaware that 10 feet away his mother's name was printed on a government form in the hands of the man who had married her son. Something broke open in my chest. Not grief exactly, not rage exactly. Something larger than both, something that had no clean name. I pressed my lips together hard against it and breathed through my nose until the shaking in my hands slowed. "He doesn't know what's in this file," Carol said quietly. "We'd like you present when we have that conversation with him, when you're ready." "I understand." I closed the folder, pushed it back across the table. "Carol, I need a few days before we talk to him. Can you give me that?" "Of course." I stood up. My legs held, which surprised me. I walked back into the common room and sat down beside Leo and watched him work for another 20 minutes, without saying anything beyond what the wood required. When I finally drove back to the shop that evening, I called Gerald Marsh. "Gerald," I said, "I need to set up a nonprofit. I need it done by Wednesday." Chloe's invitation arrived on Monday, a formal card cream colored, embossed with a font that cost more to print than most people spent on a week of groceries. A holiday gathering. Saturday the 14th. Cocktail attire requested. My name appeared at the bottom of the guest list, added after a semicolon, the way you add something you almost forgot. I knew exactly why I was being invited. Gerald Marsh had called Tuesday morning to confirm that the Eleanor Miller Woodcraft Foundation had been successfully registered with the Pennsylvania Bureau of Corporations. The Callaway Road property had been transferred into the foundation's operational trust Wednesday afternoon. As of that moment, I no longer owned a commercial building. I owned something better, a structure with a purpose that would outlast anything Brandon and Chloe had ever planned for it. I called Dorothy Thursday evening. "I need you Saturday," I said. "Bring your good coat." She didn't ask why. She had known me 68 years. "What time?" "6. And Dorothy, bring Leo." A beat. Then, "Art, are you sure?" I've never been more sure of anything since I married Eleanor. Saturday evening I put on the suit I had worn to Eleanor's memorial service and had dry cleaned exactly once since. I picked up Dorothy at 5:30. Leo was already in her front hallway wearing a collared shirt that was slightly too big in the shoulders and holding the small wooden box he and I had built together 2 weekends ago, a simple dovetail box in white oak, his first clean joints, his first real proof that his hands knew what they were doing. "You look sharp," I told him. He tugged at his collar with 2 fingers and grimaced. "It scratches." "That's how you know it's a good shirt," I said. Dorothy laughed, and for one moment the inside of my car felt like something I had not felt in a very long time. The gate at Brandon's house was open. The driveway was lined with cars. Light poured from every window, and the muffled sound of a string quartet drifted out across the cold December air. I parked at the curb, helped Dorothy out, and left Leo in the car with strict instructions to wait until I sent Dorothy back for him. Gerald Marsh was already inside, standing near the entry with his briefcase, and the quiet, alert expression of a man who is prepared for exactly this kind of room. We shook hands without speaking. Chloe moved toward us the moment we crossed the threshold, a hostess's smile perfectly calibrated, not reaching her eyes. She wore a burgundy dress, and the particular composure of someone who has rehearsed their evening down to the minute. "Arthur," she extended her hand. "I'm glad you could make it." I shook it. "I wouldn't have missed it, Chloe." Brandon appeared at her shoulder. He looked at Gerald's briefcase. The smile he had been wearing dropped approximately half an inch. The room was full partners from Brandon's firm, Chloe's social contacts, several faces I recognized from photographs on their mantelpiece. The kind of people Chloe had spent years constructing herself to impress. She let the evening build for 40 minutes before she made her move. I will give her credit for patience. She gathered the room with a few words and a raised glass. Something about family, about the coming year, about transitions and new chapters. Her eyes found mine across the room with the confidence of a woman who believed she had already won. "We're so grateful," she said, her voice warm and caring, "that Arthur has been so generous in his support of our family. And we're looking forward to making the Callaway Road property the foundation of something lasting." She paused, the pause of someone expecting applause, or at least affirmation. "Arthur, would you like to say a few words?" Every eye in the room turned toward me. I set my glass down on the nearest surface and reached into my jacket pocket. Gerald stepped forward and placed his briefcase on the side table. The room shifted, the subtle but unmistakable shift of people who suddenly understand they are not watching what they thought they were watching. "I do have something to say," I said. My voice came out steady and clear the way it always did when I was reading a set of plans to a room full of people who needed to understand something before we could move forward. "Gerald, whenever you're ready." Gerald opened the briefcase and removed a single document. He did not need to raise his voice. The room was very quiet. The commercial property at 14 Callaway Road, Gerald said, was transferred on Wednesday, December 11th, 2024, into the operational trust of the Eleanor Miller Woodcraft Foundation, a registered Pennsylvania nonprofit providing vocational training and transitional support for youth in county care. The transfer is complete and irrevocable. Mr. Miller retains the deed in trust. No further transfer to any private individual is pending or possible. The color left Chloe's face so completely that for a moment she looked like a photograph that had been left in the sun too long. Brandon said my name once, just once. The word landed in the room and dissolved. Nobody spoke. Then at the far end of the room, one of Brandon's senior partners set his glass down on the tray of a passing server and picked up his coat from the back of a chair. The quiet sound of that coat being lifted was somehow louder than anything that had been said. Others followed. Not quickly, there was no stampede, but steadily, with the particular efficiency of people who have decided somewhere to be. I looked at my son. He was 34 years old, and he was standing in the middle of the room he had worked for years to fill with the right people, and every single one of those people was leaving. I spent 30 years building things that last, Brandon, I said. My voice did not waver. I just didn't realize I was building them for the wrong person. I picked up my jacket. Gerald closed his briefcase. I walked to the front door and opened it myself. Dorothy was on the porch steps with Leo beside her. He was still holding the wooden box. He looked up at me with those careful, watchful eyes and did not ask what had happened inside. He just fell into step beside me as we walked to the car, and I put my hand briefly on his shoulder, and he did not pull away. 11 months later, on the evening of November 27th, 2025, I carried nothing to Thanksgiving dinner for the first time in my adult life. The shop had been transformed table set in the middle of the floor. Good plates borrowed from Dorothy, the smell of roasted turkey coming from the small kitchen in the back. And there against the far wall, standing exactly where it belonged, was Eleanor's oak writing desk. I had found it at the Route 9 salvage yard 6 weeks after Helen told me where it had gone. The man there remembered it. $40 and a handshake and 2 weekends of refinishing work, and it was home. Dorothy was already seated. Leo was across from her, deep in an argument with a young Foundation volunteer about the correct angle for a dovetail cut. The volunteer was losing badly. My chair was pulled out from the table. Not as ceremony, not as statement. Dorothy had simply pulled it out because she was standing closer to it than I was, and I was expected. I stood there with my hand on the chair back and felt something settle in my chest that had been unsettled for a very long time. Last Thanksgiving, I had carried 30 years of love toward a table that had decided I was easier to celebrate without. This year my place was set before I arrived, not because I had paid for it, not because I had fixed something, not because I was useful, because I was wanted. I sat down. Leo looked up from his argument long enough to say, "The turkey's getting cold, Arthur." I laughed. It came out full and easy the way laughter does when it has not been rationed for a while. "Then let's eat," I said. "There is something I have learned at 68 that I wish I had understood at 34. Love is not a ledger. You do not keep giving simply because you have always given. And when the people you have carried for decades treat your presence as optional but your resources as guaranteed, that is not family. That is a arrangement that has been mistaken for one. God has a way of redirecting what we build toward the people who actually need it. I did not plan to meet Leo that Thanksgiving evening. I did not plan to find Eleanor's desk in a salvage yard or to sign documents that turned a building into something that will outlast all of us. But looking back, I believe every closed door that night was quietly opening another one somewhere I had not thought to look. That is what family justice means to me now. Not revenge, not punishment. Just the quiet, firm decision to stop funding the people who discard you and start investing in the ones who would never dream of it. If you are carrying your family the way I carried mine, silently, completely without question, I want to tell you, this: do not wait for a Thanksgiving phone call to wake you up. You deserve a table where your chair's pulled out before you arrive, not because of what you bring, because of who you are. This is what a revenge dad moment truly looks like. Not anger, not cruelty, just clarity and the courage to act on it before another 8 years slips by. If this story moves something in you, leave the word justice in the comments. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you believe every person deserves family justice, not just forgiveness, subscribe to this channel so you never miss what comes next. Thank you for staying until the very end. It means more than you know. And before you go, some stories on this channel contain fictional elements crafted purely for reflection and life lessons. If that is not the kind of content you are looking for, I understand completely. Choose what serves you best. But if it is, I will see you in the next one.